Welcome to Strong Towns, Las Vegas. Now, before we begin, I hope everybody is doing well. Obviously, I wanted to do a presentation outdoors in the rooftop terrace, but unfortunately, you can see there's rain, lightning strikes, pretty uncertain, so I decided to do this indoors again. Obviously, our main concern with urban planning, because that's what an organization we are, I run the local chapter, is to fight car dependency. And there are many problems with this car dependent modern urban planning system that we have right now. And one of them is that in order to keep this system going, we need to have energy costs very, very low. Now, I don't know if you guys have heard about this, but there are reports that a couple of refineries in the state of California are projected to close, or plan to close, next year. And many experts claim that it could send gas prices probably as high as $8 a gallon. Now, again, what are you guys really concerned about that? Because, if you look, we're behind me. We're not in California. However, you have to keep in mind, though, yes, we don't have many of the policies regarding taxes. However, our main source, most of our gasoline supply, comes from the state of California. And this will not only affect Nevada, but other states like Arizona. Now, right now here in Las Vegas, typically people are paying about $3.50, $3.70 a gallon. If there's going to be a disruption to the refinery supplies in California, this will affect Las Vegas gas prices, undoubtedly. When we had the surge in prices in the period of 2022, because Russia invaded Ukraine, fuel prices in the southwest part of the country rose about $1.50 a gallon in a very short period of time, a matter of weeks, instead of 70 cents in most parts of the country. Usually when there are refinery outages now, I don't know exactly what happened. People said there could have been some meddling going on. Who knows? But the supplies of California and even the standards greatly affect our fuel prices. Now, some of it is true. We have additional local gas taxes because, again, we have to maintain all this car infrastructure of highways and especially roads. However, California is the main reason why fuel prices are among the highest in the state of Nevada. Now, the governor has even addressed this issue many, many times. Now, of course, a lot of you who are watching this thinking, well, some of you on one side of the aisle are thinking, okay, we should just build a refinery out here. We should just drill more oil. The other side will just say, just don't worry about it. Maybe we'll just plug it in and put an electric car. Now, here's the thing, though. Cars are, regardless of whether energy prices come down through other means, they're going to create a lot of congestion. But then again, no one ever talks about the fact that why can't we have an urban planning system that would reduce the dependency on cars, because we can't always guarantee that energy prices are going to stay low. Okay, because we don't know, God forbid something could happen. Maybe, who knows, UFOs come from out of space and all of a sudden energy supplies are disrupted, whether they are producing electricity or gasoline, whatever you want to talk about it. But I think that this is a great opportunity because this will alert us so much, this will create so much dysfunction that it will create a massive wake-up call, letting us to believe that, hey, you know something, maybe things are so dysfunctional, things are so bad, that we really need to seek changes. We need to seek alternatives. We really need to get a lot of things done. We need to have an open mind. This is going to create a lot of problems, whether it's our commute, how we're going to get errands done, how our kids going to be sent to school. And more importantly, remember, still, one of our largest sources of tourism traffic, the people who are coming and spending money, dumping their dollars in these properties behind me, is people driving here from nearby states, especially California. And by the way, not only visitation levels are down year over year, according to the LVCVA, traffic coming through the California-Nevada state line border through Prim is still below 2007 levels. So when these fuel prices surge, not only here but in California, you think people are going to come here and spend all this money when they have to figure out how they're going to get to work, how they're going to get their errands done? This is going to have a huge, massive effect in the tourism and economy, which is actually one of the reasons why I think we should build a high-speed rail. Now, of course, we can debate the prices and costs and a lot of other things, but here's the real issue. Here's the really sad part. Because of our modern urban planning system, Sprawl, we were alerted in the 1970s from the oil shocks, whether it was in the mid to late 2000s when gas prices were hitting $4 a gallon, when politicians were always talking about how they're going to lower fuel prices. In 2022, we were alerted and we failed to really learn our lesson and demand serious changes to our urban planning system. We haven't built a whole lot of alternative planned cities or made it easier a whole lot to make the infill existing areas more pedestrian friendly and so forth. And the thing is that you've got to really understand that electric cars, now, yes, the production has increased, but there has been a lot of different issues with electric cars, with batteries, cost. I mean, the list goes on, because the heart of the issue is, remember, when you go back to where the car was really getting into the market in the 1920s, a lot of us didn't really need it because, remember, almost all of us lived in cities that walking around, cycling, taking transit made a lot more sense. It was a lot more economical. It was a lot more efficient. So perhaps this will create a massive shock, and the upside is that we will seek alternatives to our current planning. Obviously, the thing is after the 1920s, our planning system really began to change. Okay, we've seen a lot of codes, new policies, parking requirements, zoning, stroads, all this other nonsense that came in and made our cities more car dependent. Now, many people will say, well, people want single family homes with yards. Well, the reality is Las Vegas is the sixth densest urban area in the United States. We have homes that are very close together. I can take two of my hands, touch two homes. And the reality is, when you look at an old-fashioned neighborhood, whether it's in a small town or an inner city neighborhood like in Queens, I can have a detached home in a tiny lot, and guess what? I could walk to a lot of places, I can take transit, and so forth. So what we've really done is we've decided, let's continue with strip malls, with office parks, with subdivisions, with these cookie cutter, cheap quality tract homes, streets laid out in a maze, full of cul-de-sacs, gated areas, HOA, public facilities like schools where children have to be chauffeured every time they want to go, all this dysfunction. And, the reality is that it's going to be a shocking factor when fuel prices are going to hit $5 a gallon. Perhaps the rest of the country is going to be in the low $2 range. This is going to create a massive economic shock, so much trouble. I mean, in fact, even if you don't drive, look, it's going to impact freight, our goods and services. Keep this in mind. There's just a lot of problems with the system. Safety hazards, people getting killed on the roads, health concerns, environmental impacts, whether it's lack of beauty, charm, lack of socializing, all these other costs, congestion, the list goes on. Now, of course, the good news is then there's been a lot of changes in planning recently. There's been a lot of things being done. We have seen a lot of mixed-use developments, although, again, we're really not there yet. There's plenty of mixed-use projects that's being planned or being done all across the valley, especially in the Southwest, that I can show you. But then again, the heart of the planning situation, the stroads, the lack of walkability, are we seeing a lot of corner stores where people can walk to get their necessities, cafes? All these factors have not been really addressed very, very well. And of course, the other issue is that we need, yes, more transit, but in order to get transit, we have to build things cost effective. They have to really compete with cars. We have to create more pedestrian friendly environments, because otherwise, if we just build transit and it doesn't have good ridership, cost a lot of money, I mean, we're not going to get a whole lot out of that. That really takes a lot of years and time. Now, in my last post, I did talk about how you can message the Public Works, the Planning Department of Clark County, to demand some changes in transportation and street design and so forth, so we can encourage better land use, more pedestrian life. Of course, there's a lot of plans, they're still on the table, how we want to expand federal lands, and if we're going to allow, more development on the outskirts, we have to do it more efficiently. But at the same time, we have to look at plenty of infill opportunities like properties across the street where I live that can be full of housing and other types of land uses. Now, many of you probably think maybe it's good. We should just keep gas prices really high, just like they do in Europe, so that people will just stop driving and they'll get around through other means. Now, I get the logic behind it, but then again, I don't think that we should kind of like give people higher costs and make people experience a lot of budget problems in their personal finances. I think what we can do is we can somehow encourage people to bring better alternatives, to drive less, to make things more efficient, and reduce a lot of the problems that we have now. Because after all, I do think that this is going to be very dysfunctional. Our economy is very fragile. But I just want to let you know that there's a lot of reports that gas prices are going to surge, and this is a perfect opportunity for us to get this message across. But remember, this issue is going to be done in a very regional situation. And one of the reasons why these refineries are shutting down, it's a really long story. I heard oil giants are not happy operating in California. I don't know exactly the story. Then again, what we need to be talking about is why should we have to be dependent on cars and have to be dependent on low fuel prices? So you let me know what you think. Can we obviously do things fast, efficient, raise an alarm? Thank you so much. Please do what you can. Spread this information.